ready now. Good afternoon, members of the public and viewers. My name is Francisca John. I am a qualified social worker, youth and child counselor, and also specialize in palliative care. Today, my task is a simple one. I will be your lead moderator for this live discussion. Firstly, let me introduce the panel speaker around the table. On my left, we have our featured speaker, Ms. Bernadette Seeley, who is the Victim and Witness Support Unit Team Lead, South and Southwestern Division, since 2008 to present. We also have our featured speaker, Ms. Shirma Mills, a mental health and oncology nurse and palliative care counselor. We also have Ms. Leah Padia, a psychiatric social worker, chairperson of Social Action Issues Committee of Trinidad and Tobago, Association of Social Workers and founder and general manager of Help Me Live. We have Dr. Dwayne Denny on my right, PhD holder in leadership, MBA in focused leadership, and a BSc in psychology and social work. This young man has a great wealth of experience when it comes to conflict resolution and domestic violence, and so many more. Dr. Dwayne Denny, who worked for several ministries in the past, such as Ministry of Development and Family Services. We also have Ms. Danica Richards, qualified social worker and medical in social work. We also have a candidate for nursing degree. Let me jump right into our discussion this afternoon. The theme is domestic violence against families in the home. The purpose of this discussion is to raise an education awareness to the public about the prevalence and dangers underlying to social work. Firstly, let me jump right into our discussion this afternoon. We have Ms. Shirma Mills. Let's get a deeper understanding on domestic violence. Let's hear from Ms. Shirma Mills. What is domestic violence?
Happy to be here. The main conversation that we're having here is the continued vulnerability of women and girls at this time, and men as well. And you know, everything that we discuss, we need to talk about gender in it, because that's where the whole conversation is taking place, not just locally, regionally, and internationally. But United Nations has put together a nice combination for the conversation to begin, because domestic violence, gender-based violence, intimate partner violence borders on a lot of conversations. And what it is, reasons, persons affected, and types. So it basically speaks for itself. Intimate partner violence says something, it's your loved one that is the abuser. Alright, that's the first thing we need to understand. Your loved one. So hence the reason why the conversation that we're going to have here is going to be so heart-rendering to tell the public, because it's not a stranger that is doing you this act. You know, whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's financially, you know, whether it's psychosocially, you know, this is not a topic that is, you know, it's going to be an easy one, but we're going to guide, you know, our viewers through what we plan to execute here today in terms of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, and gender-based violence. The UN has put together this definition. It can be defined as a pattern of behavior in a relationship that is used to gain and maintain power and control over the intimate partner. So you hear those words. Abuse is psychological, sexual, economic, psychosocial in terms of actions and threats. Alright, against another person. This includes any behaviors that frighten, intimidate, terrorize, manipulate, hurt, humiliate, injure, or wound someone. Alright, you hear those words there, and you know it's have to formulate them well so that it will be understood about what the task we are at today. Alright, so we want to talk about the power and control wheel, and we will touch on the male aspect of it, because we do not want to alienate and just talk about what women experience. So I've already started ball rolling, and as everyone knows, my other question is, where do we go from here?
Thank you, Ms. Mills, for that fundamental information. So let's hear from our featured speaker, Ms. Susan, show any potential warning signs.
Pleasant good afternoon to my co-presenters, to our moderator, Mrs. John, and to our viewing public. Before I dive into the question, I would just like to introduce the Victim and Witness Support Unit to our viewing public and to some of the things that we do. Established in 2008, the Victim and Witness Support Unit was introduced to bridge the service gap between the victims and witnesses, the TTPS, and the victims and witnesses of crime. The Victim and Witness Support Unit provides two types of services. We provide an investigative support service, which provides investigative and update on the investigation. We also provide support to the victims as they traverse the justice system, because many of our people, our public, viewing public, knows the difficulty of going through the justice system, because most people are not aware of what it requires sometimes. The next service is the Psychosocial Support Service, which includes counseling, individual and family and groups, individual, group and community crisis intervention, referral to other agencies for assistance that victims may need, emotional support for the events related to the investigation, community outreach, community sensitization events, partnership with NGOs and FBOs and private agencies. In addition to these services to victims and witnesses of crime, we also provide facilitation of support groups within our community, provide training for staff of external agencies on victim services, conduct workshops on victim-related matters, deliver psychoeducational seminars with groups and agencies and organizations upon request. The Victim and Witness Support Officers are civilian staff within the TTPS who delivers victim services. Thanks for this opportunity for providing this bit of information. But now I would like to delve into the question. Do abusers show potential signs, warning signs? And the answer to that is a very short one. Yes. But most of us miss those signs. The problem is that people are desperately looking for love in all the wrong places and faces. However, we must understand that the dynamic of the Eros love is crammed with pleasure, lust, attraction, and attachment. Love is something that people are in need of to feel that sense of acceptance, attachment, caring, and intimacy. This brings the parties into a state of euphoria and causes them to throw all cares to the wind. And in addition to that, it is also accepted that falling in love is a risky business. And though it may end in heartbreak, people are still willing to take the risk. With the idea that love is risky, persons usually miss signs of potential abusers. And even if they see it, they choose to believe that love changes things. At this time, I'd just like to share some of the potential signs that persons may have in abusive relationship that may turn out to be abusive relationship. Quick involvement. This is a big one.
Lockdown.
Yes. The potential abuser comes in like a whirlwind, and by the time awareness steps in, he or she is in already for a pound. This experience with the potential heartbreak is now called the love bomb.
Yeah.
Controlling behaviors, checking. Everybody must know where you are, when you are, and the next thing they want to know, they want you to spend all of their time, all of your time with him or her. You know, this same controlling behavior leads to isolation because it interrupts the relationship of the victims with their families and friends and other support systems that might be able to provide them with help. The next is verbal abuse. Verbal abuse. This one starts like a joke and then it becomes the norm. Violent threats of violence, breaking and striking objects, terrorizing the victim, saying things like, if you ever leave me, I will kill you and kill myself because I can't live without you. And people think that this is part of the love situation. Hypersensitivity. She is easily insulted, always taking the slightest remarks as personal attacks. Pay attention to those. Cruelty to children and animals. And people would say to themselves, how would I be with a person who would be cruel to a child or to an animal? But what they don't see is the teasing, which is part of our culture, to tease other persons. And they tease you and those persons has no sympathy, no empathy for persons with pain and suffering. And finally, the potential abuser is always blaming other people for their action. And a lot of us find ourselves sometimes blaming situations, blaming people for our responsible behavior or irresponsible behavior. Yes? So, I'll pass this back to you now.
Thank you so much, Ms. Seeley, for sharing such personal information. Moving along, let's hear from Rich Richards. Tell me, why do you think victims sometimes turn to the abuser?
Pleasant good afternoon to everyone. Whenever we hear that a female victim, for example, has returned to her abuser, we typically would say that she's stupid. We would say that she must want to be beaten, or in training terms, she like the licks. But I just want to make it clear that those who are abused, they are not stupid and nobody wants to be beaten. We have to understand that abuse is a very complicated topic and it's very sensitive, and the healing process is not as simple as we make it out to be. So let's get into why victims return to their abusers. One of the reasons is that relationships don't always start off abusive. Just like Ms. Celia had mentioned with the love bombing, at the start of a relationship, the abuser may present himself to be charming, to be nice. And then people start to love bomb. That love bombing is a form of emotional manipulation where the abuser would use she would use excessive affection, shower the person with gifts, and make you feel like if you're the most important person in the world. He does this because he wants to be in control. And once he has hooked you in, that is when his true nature will show, his true colors. You would begin to see his aggressive side, you would begin to see his abusive ways. But the victim may ignore these signs because, remember, the change in behavior would have happened so suddenly. And the person that he presented himself to be in the beginning is the complete opposite of what he's displaying now. So it may actually take a few violent outbursts before the victim could actually see that the person that she fell in love with at the beginning of the relationship is not the person that he truly is. Another reason is self-blame. Many victims tend to blame themselves. They would say things like, maybe I could change. Maybe, what if I could cook better? What if it is I could lose weight, then he won't hit me, then he will love me. And this is often reinforced by the abuser, who would make the victim feel as though it's their fault. He would say things like, you are the reason why I am so angry. You making me do this. You are the reason why I'm so aggressive. And this is called victim blaming. And finally, codependency on the abuser. Many abusers make the victim feel as though they cannot survive without them. And normally abusers would create financial situations that would make it difficult or even impossible for the victim to leave. So, for instance, a man who is jealous, remember he wants control, right? He may stop his partner from having a job. So here she is with no job, no experience, and if kids are involved, then that would make things even more complicated. So if it is she has to leave, she has to think about moving forward with no job, no experience. So most likely she would, because of the circumstance, she's not stupid, she doesn't like the licks, but because of the situation, she would stay. So those are the main reasons why victims stay with their abusers, but they are not all. Because like I stated earlier, abuse is a very complicated matter, and it's a process. When I worked at a domestic violence shelter a few years ago, I learned that the victims would leave their abusers and return. And the leaving is actually part of the process. And research has shown that it may take a woman 7 times to leave and coming back before she actually leaves for good. So what it is I would like to leave with everyone is that we should try to be more informed and compassionate in supporting survivors of abuse.
Thank you so much, Ms. Richards, for your input. Moving along on my left, we have Dr. Dwayne Denny, a man that has wealth of experience when it comes to domestic violence. Are men victims of domestic violence?
Thank you very much, Francisca, the moderator for today. For all of you under the sound of my voice, a pleasant good afternoon to each and every one of you. If you would allow me to just take up from where Ms. Mills was speaking about, she had just given us an equation for change. And when we listen to her carefully in terms of how does change come about, what she indicated to us at one, there must be quality input. Persons must be willing to put, the input must be of quality. Every measure that you take must be of quality. And she also indicated to us about consistency. Yes. So if we add that quality input and multiply it by consistency, you know our sum is going to be a great result. Yes. Yes. She also spoke to us about time. It's not going to happen overnight. You must give it time. With the quality input, the consistency, you divide that by some time, you're going to get that behavior change that you're looking for. Yeah. So it's important for the abuser and the abusee to know, yes, change can take effect, but you must be willing. You must be willing to want that change for that change to begin to take effect. So taking up from where Ms. Mills and to answer the question, are men victim of domestic violence? And it's so good that I'm the only man on the panel this afternoon, you know. And in Trinidad and Tobago, not much is known about males and domestic violence. How do males respond to domestic violence is a crucial question that we all must ask ourselves. How do males cope with domestic violence? And how do they disclose that domestic violence experience? Do we have that happening right here in Trinidad and Tobago? Do you find men exposing themselves, exposing what they have been experiencing? And I want to take up from Rondell Fields, who is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Single Parents Association. And according to him, men endure emotional and physical abuse in their family homes to provide sustenance and maintenance for safety, growth and development of the children. So taken from there, and to answer the question that has been asked, Yes, men do experience domestic violence. And according to what Ms. Mills also indicated, regardless of your race, regardless of your age, your status, your employment status, regardless of your sexual orientation, as long as you consider yourself a human being, you will experience some level of conflict and some level of domestic violence. It's up to you as an individual to seek that change and to get the help that is required for you to get. According to World Health Organization in 2019, a report was made and they indicated that violence against women is 1 in every 3 women experience domestic violence. They also went on to indicate that 38% of the murders that we see is women experiencing the murders coming from domestic violence. And while this is so, there is also inter-partner violence that we heard about just now a few minutes ago. Even in same-sex partners, same-sex marriage, same-sex correlation, whatever it is, persons experience that domestic violence. According to, in 2020, there has been some statistical report from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that indicates that in 2021, there was 855 persons assisted with domestic violence, and coming out of that, 188 of them were males. What is that saying to us? Males are now beginning to feel that sense to report matters. Why that is so, there's the other angle. Do males really feel comfortable to go and report a domestic violence abuse? Do you think that this will happen? Even as a man listening to us, would you pick yourself up and go to a police station and go and make a report to indicate that you are being abused? Why? Because there's shame. Shame by itself will hold you back. There's the ego that we heard about earlier on. What does the ego do? That's the pride part of it. It tells you that, hey, I am shame, I am embarrassed to go and seek this help, even with my peers. Think about this. As a man, you have your peers amongst you. Are you going to tell your friend that your wife just hit you, your girlfriend just slapped you, or she's going through your cell phone? All of those things are factors that contribute to what men experience with domestic violence. They are being stopped.
Yes.
Those things happen, ma'am. And how do they react? How do they respond to it? Is there opportunities for men to get the assistance that they need? Right. Do we have the facilities? No. These are the questions that we continue to ask ourselves as men. Lack of hope, when there's no hope. When there is no hope for tomorrow, you don't know what to do, there's uncertainty, pandemic came, frustration going on in the home. Men also experiencing that domestic violence right there in the house. And this afternoon we want to deploy and say to men, seek help, get help, find help wherever you are located. Get the assistance that is needed, that you need in order to survive this domestic violence that you're experiencing.
Thank you, Mr. Denny, for that pertinent information. Moving along, on my right, we have Ms. Leah Padia. How does the economy affect domestic violence, and how has domestic violence increased due to the global pandemic?
Good afternoon, all. How does domestic violence affect the economy? Now, Ms. Mills, Mr. Denny, everyone touched on mine, so I'll just bring it home. Yeah, I'll just bring it home. Domestic violence is not caused by poverty, by unemployment, by economic recession. But these factors, they play a big role in it. We have the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were locked in or locked down or shut in or however you want to frame it. And then we have person experiencing unemployment, debt and debts. We have people experiencing loss of jobs. We have people who were permanently employed became unemployed. We have children who are in the home now, shut in. And we have persons that don't know where their next meal is coming from. We have the banks calling on the door. We have the credit unions. We have courts, but faithful courts that have to call. We have them calling. And persons were being frustrated and don't know how to deal with these issues. We have no coping mechanism in place. Our country, unlike other countries of the world, we're now being bombarded with this online living. No one knew what it was. Frustration was all over the board. We have communities where My community is a small country community. The more countryside children, we have school dropouts. We have school dropouts. Our future resource, they are no longer taking the education to uplift themselves, to promote growth within the economy. Because now we have children seeing what mommy and daddy are doing in the household. We have children seeing the abuse, we have children seeing the licks. Morning is licks, evening is licks, night is licks. We have communities that now don't even understand the seriousness and the psychological effects of children seeing lick shine like rain. I was in a community in Point 14 and I want to run out and stop it. And there's every Monday morning I did.
Wow.
And the children playing in the road like normal. This is not normal. This is a plague. The UN said that this is the new plague. They call it the shadow pandemic.
Yes.
Because while COVID-19 increased, domestic violence within households and communities globally is now on the increase. We do not have facilities in place to deal with it. We do not even have hotlines, enough hotlines to deal with it. We have so many hundreds, may I say thousands of qualified, certified social workers that are not being employed to deal with it. They are burnt out, whoever is in the hospital, within the schools, they are burnt out. They are not equipped. What are we going to do? How are we going to treat with this? We have persons that are knocking on the door now. Persons even lost their jobs due to not being vaccinated.
Which is uncertainty.
We will not touch that. We will be here till next week. That is not a topic we're touching. But when it is persons don't know where their next bread and butter coming from, how are they to treat it?
Right.
Not everyone has the tools to know what are coping mechanisms.
Yes.
Not everyone has those tools. When they go to school, children are not being told, take deep breaths, look for 5 things in their surroundings. They are not being taught that. Mommies and daddies are not being taught that. From 2009 to 2022, 2019, sorry, to 2022, there have been so many domestic related deaths happening right here. And every time we hear of one, the brutalness of it increases. It intensifies. Right within my community last month, death. He killed his wife. He killed his son, the stepson, the babysitter. What do we have in place to deal with the survivors? To deal with the children that witnessed it, that live, to deal with the family members that lost a loved one, the victim and the abuser. What do we have in place? We do not have nothing in place. We have homes that do not have the capacity to handle what we are experiencing right now. All the resources, if not all, we don't lie, majority of the resources went to the health sector to deal with the sickness and the deaths that we were being faced with. And not much is in place for the infrastructure, for support for the domestic violence. We have men being reported. As you said, are we sensitive to this matter? We have men, I know for a fact of a man, he dealt with it for years. Every time he went to the police station, they laughed at him. And he eventually killed himself and his wife. The uproar would reach with, oh, it's domestic violence, but yet we have to understand, as Ms. Mills said, as Ms. Richards said, as Ms. Bernadette, as all of us said, this does not happen today for today. This is a cycle. The economy, the government, the ministers, the powers that be, you all need to join with us and put something in place. We need to put something in place. The economy cannot handle what is being taken place right now. We have nothing in place to handle the burden of what we are seeing and dealing with. And we are in our own professions, in our own areas of work, in our own communities. We see, we know, we hear,
Yes.
we feel, we understand.
Yes.
What are we going to do about it? What can the economy do about it when the economy itself is feeling drained and have nothing to give? How are we going to treat with this going forward?
Again, Ms. Padia, for sharing such pertinent information. For viewers that are looking on, everyone can answer on our panel. What can persons do to help with respect to domestic violence?
So, I would want to take it from a more sober.
I tell you, the passion and the heart to be exploded on the side.
Go ahead, Missy.
I have been with the Victim and Witness Support Unit since 2008. And within that time, it would have been the first agency in Trinidad and Tobago
Yes.
that would have been dealing with victims,
Yes.
partners, victim support, and victim services. And since then, we have helped and worked with many people. In 2020, we would have serviced 899 persons of domestic violence. Of that was 205 male persons. Females, 694 persons. In 2001, we serviced 854 persons. Males were 189 of those, and the female was 669 persons.
2021 figure, that's went up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Went up by leaps and bounds.
And the thing is,
800.
Yep.
there is traction in our unit. We have been working assiduously to deal with all of these matters. The government, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service would have invested in that unit to provide more workers, more employees, and more resources.
Great.
And the thing is, though, what happens is that, as you would have said, Ms. Mills, and I would have also indicated, this situation is about love.
Yeah.
It is about a situation of trust, a situation of being accepted, a situation of being wanting to be having that intimacy. And while it might seem that there is nothing happening, there are many persons working.
That's right.
There are a lot of NGOs that we
Yes.
have worked with within the past couple of years, trying to bring some support and some sense of stability to homes and families. My suggestion, however, is that more persons need to report
That's
their
right.
situation. But again, why won't they report it? The report is that this is all that I have. And I just want to add two things. When persons have to leave a relationship, as Ms. Denny would have said, it's difficult because you have children and you have invested feelings and love and emotions in these relationships.
Yeah.
And it's not you alone.
That's right.
It is the parents,
Yeah.
it is the in-laws,
Yeah.
it is a number of other factors that contribute to persons not leaving the home. Because when you think about your children and you have to take your children out of the home, where are you carrying them? There is no family support.
Yeah.
Because of the economy of our country and because of the situation that we are presently facing, where would you take them?
And that's what will be breakdown in society. That
So
family
the
units.
situation and another thing is educating our public.
Yes.
information.
The information might be there, but the distraction is high.
Correct. Well
The
said.
distraction is high. Because when you get a video of dance and violence and all manner of things, would you take a video of education? Would you sit down and listen to a video of education? Because you are still thinking that you are de-stressing, that you are trying to de-stress from all the stress that you have been, undergoing. So the thing is, a mother who is being abused or a woman who is being abused, sometimes it's not wrong to be the abusers of her children.
Correct.
And she being an abuser of her children,
Is
they
that
turn
right?
out to,
That's right.
and we see now,
That's right.
and we see the results in the schools.
Yeah.
So what we now need to do as a country and as a people, we need to come together and we need to pool our resources together as much as we can and start treating the situation from the knee high, which is the children.
Yes.
We need to invest in our children's education.
Yes.
Not just maths and English,
Social skills.
but social skills. Because our people has lost, I mean, just I want to bring this little situation to you all. A man is talking about respect in his home, and he wants his family to respect him. And the situation is not the respect in the home, you know, it's the respect that he is not getting outside when he steps outside. He is not getting any respect from his bosses. He is not getting respect from the public that he needs, that he has to work with daily. And so when he gets home, we have this misplaced aggression.
Yeah.
And so that aggression ends up in the home. Yes? The thing is, we all have to put our hands together. What we can do first is to educate our public as to what good relationship looks like. And I want to just bring a few points here. A good relationship has trust and support. It also has respect. Respect for not just the individual, but respect and appreciation for what the individual is doing, for who they are. Now, let's be real. Some men, some women has not even gotten a day of respect from their home of origin.
Yeah.
And so they grow up thinking that this thing is a normal situation. That you come out here and we disrespect people. You know? And so that we need to understand what's the difference between respect and other things that we will claim as respect. Because this afternoon we had a nice little situation as we come into the office, coming into this portion here, this portion as we enter by the gate, yes? One person is saying something and our communication skills are very low. And so once we have this problem with communication, I say one thing and then you interpret it to be something else and you never answer a question as to what did you actually mean? That's respect. What did you actually mean when you said that? That's respect as well. Non-threatening violent behavior. Non-threatening behavior. I don't want to slap you upside in your head. Yeah? Quiet, honesty, and accountability. If most people think about it, they will understand where your issue starts. When you are not accountable to yourself, you don't, and you're not honest with yourself. Because why would I want a man to be perfect and I am not?
Yes.
Why would I want him to respect me when I'm not respecting him?
Yes.
Why would I want my children to respect me when I'm not respecting them? People have to wake up. We have to get out of the delusion of blaming others. Negotiation. I remember my 4-year-old negotiated with me to have his snack. And I taught him that early.
Yes.
We need to teach our children how to negotiate, how to speak.
Yes.
Because sometimes we have the children at the home and we will not speak to them and they will not speak to us. And then when you go into the home, everybody's on the screen.
Yes.
You know? And what are they learning on the screen? The things that, we call it societal norms, where the young man shoot up his mother or cuss with the mother and the mother say, okay, well, everybody's different and I understand that. No, respect is respect. Yes? Fairness. Share responsibility. Share responsibility for the home. Everybody is tired. Everybody is stressed. We need to take responsibility for our behavior. Freedom to share opinions and feel safe in doing it. It is hardly, so your job, your home, your school, you can hardly share your own opinion. People quick to get on your chest.
Yeah.
You know, what is that?
Yeah.
You know, people are not feeling safe. You walking down the road and you say something and somebody will get upset with you, and suddenly you have to start it back because you don't know. We see it all the time, right? So it is possible for everyone to speak about domestic violence and talk about it in a way that we will be able to treat it. Every individual can contribute to the creation of a survivors network. You know, we can contribute. It doesn't take much money, it doesn't take much time, but we respect situations when we see them. So your people in your community, you have a family, and I remember that. We had people in our community who had domestic violence situation, mother couldn't give children, whatever, and you will find the other housewives, they're too going through their thing, but they will make little packages and take it home, take a bread in the evening, bring the children over, let us keep them, you know, and give some relief. Everybody could contribute. You know, and I would want to give other persons the opportunity to contribute as well to this question.